Good afternoon. Welcome to the webinar on the T-level in agriculture, environment and animal care. There's still a couple of minutes to go until 2 o'clock, so I'll wait until 2 to give as many people as possible the chance to attend. So we'll start the session in a couple of minutes. Can you see my my front slide okay? Nothing blocking your view? Do put in the chat or questions if you can see me okay. Thank you. Thank you, Tanya. That's fine. Thank you for letting me know. We'll be starting in a minute or two. I'm just giving people a chance to join. It's not quite 2 o'clock yet. Just to let you know, this webinar is being recorded, so you can access it from the website at any time once it's uploaded onto our website. Okay, that's 2 o'clock, so I will make a start. If anyone else joins, that's fine. I'll start with an introductory slide so that anyone that joins over the next minute or two hopefully won't miss too much. So thank you for joining, those of you that have joined this afternoon, to our webinar, basically as an introduction or refresher to the T-level in agriculture, environment and animal care. And let me just, there we are. So what we're going to talk about this afternoon is a little bit of background about the T-levels. If you're not already familiar with the structure of the T-levels, I will be going through that and the thinking behind the level 3 reforms. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the structure of our qualification in agriculture, land management and production in particular. I'm going to talk about the core and core pathway structure, which is unique to the land T-level compared to other T-levels, an outline on the occupational specialisms and where we are currently in terms of the qualification development and validation, which, as you probably know, is still ongoing at the moment. Then there'll be a section on the resources that are available to you via our website and from other sites, how you can get involved with the development, review and validation of the qualification. And there will be a chance to put questions at the end. If you do have questions, please do put them in the Q&A function on your screen, and I will do my best to answer any questions at the end of the session. And I may also add them to the FAQ page if they may be relevant to other providers. Please note we are recording this webinar, and the recording and the slides will be available on the website in due course. So you'll be able to download the slides or sit and watch a recording of the video. So even if you can't attend the whole session, if you're not able to attend today, it will be available for you to have a look at. If any questions or issues arise that would be useful to feed back to the Institute, with your consent, we would like to do that. Feedback is always useful in the development of the qualification. So with your consent, any feedback that arises from this session will be sent to the Institute for Apprenticeships and Technical Education, Ofqual, and the Department for Education. And along with those questions or issues, with your permission, we would like to share your name, job role, organisation, and your feedback. So that will be the content for this afternoon's webinar. It's really quite a basic overview or a refresher for those of you who have already seen previous webinars or attended one of my network sessions, and an introduction for anyone who is new to the T-level. Just to introduce the members of the team, I'm Anne Rogers. I'm the technical advisor for the land-based T-levels, and you can see my email address up there on the screen. Please do get in touch if you need any help or advice from a provider's point of view for the T-level. And Sally is our industry manager for the land-based T-levels, and Sally's email address is also on there. Please, if you are also an employer as well as a provider, or if you are aware of any employers in the land-based sector who may want to get involved with validation or review or writing of these qualifications, we are still looking for people to get involved. So employers can get involved with Sally at the email address there on the screen, and providers can get in touch with me. Now, the level 3 provision is being revamped at the moment by the government. The proposal is to have 3 routes at level 3: A-levels, T-levels, and apprenticeships. A-levels are the subject-based qualifications where a learner spends 2 years at a sixth form college or in the sixth form in school. The apprenticeship is on-the-job work-based training, more or less 80% on the job and 20% perhaps at a education provider. And an apprenticeship is typically 12 or 24 months in length. And the T-level is the new gold standard qualification for technical programs. It's a 2-year technical program based at local colleges, schools, and training providers, which, unlike the apprenticeship, is 80% roughly classroom-based and 20% in an industry placement. And that substantial proportion of industry placement will help to build attitudes, behaviours, and skills towards that employer, towards that learner progressing into employment. Possible progression from all 3 of these level 3 routes would be into either skilled employment, higher education, or a degree apprenticeship, for example. T-levels differ from apprenticeships in that, well, they are the same in that they are both based on employer design standards, but the T-level is much more classroom-based than the apprenticeship. It offers a broad course content, allows students to specialise later in the programme, whereas apprenticeships are more suited to learners who know what they want to do in their job or career more or less from the outset. And as I've said, the T-level is seen as the new gold standard in technical education and the choice for the future. Level 3 qualifications that overlap in content with the T-levels are due to be defunded in 2025-26. Every T-level, and that's across all sectors, includes an industry placement. And that industry placement will focus on developing not only attitudes and behaviours towards being an employable person, but also to develop practical and technical skills towards a desired occupation for the learner. Now, the industry placement will be a minimum of 315 hours, which is around about 45 days, but it can be longer. It will be entirely up to the providers how they are organised. You may choose to release your learners as a day release, 1 day a week, for example. You may release them in a block or several blocks over the 2 years of the programme. They may do it in the summer break between year 1 and year 2. It's entirely up to the providers and your employers in how this is organised. It's up to providers and employers between you to ensure that your learners have a suitable industry placement, and mutual support should be offered between the two, including assistance with paperwork, planning, designing the placement. And resources are available from the Education and Skills Funding Agency and National Apprenticeship Service. You can have a look at information on the government website, and there's a link to that at the bottom of the slide there. But the Association of Colleges also produce some very useful resources towards industry placements, as do the ETF. And in my next webinar, I will be talking in more detail about preparing learners for those industry placements. The T-level itself, and again, this is common across all T-levels, has the composition that you can see on the slide there. The core programme, and in land, the core programme is round about 30% of the total TQ time. The core programme consists of a mandatory common core assessment, and all learners across all the land-based specialisms will take the same common core content and be assessed with the same common core exam. And where land differs from some of the other sectors in T-levels is that there is also a core pathway assessment. And the reason that has been introduced is that the common core was quite generic and really quite small. As you can imagine, the land-based sector is a very diverse one, and there is very little really common content between the specialisms. If you think of what a floristry learner may go through in their 2 years at college compared to a learner on land-based engineering or equine management or livestock production, the content is very different. So the common core is really quite generic, contains elements, for example, of health and safety, business, finance, communication skills, very generic subjects that could really apply to any learner, not just in land. And so to contextualise the core programme more towards the specialisms available in land, the core pathways have been introduced, and material has been taken from the occupational specialism and put into the pathway core, so that that's more contextualised and more engaging for your particular learners. So land-based learners will take 2 core exams, one for the common core and one for the core pathway. Also included in the core programme is the Employer Set project. Now that name is a little bit misleading. It's not set by individual employers. It isn't set by, for example, the employer that the learner may be going to for their industry placement. It's nothing to do with that. The Employer Set project is based on the knowledge in the core pathway content. So all learners on a particular core pathway across the country will take the same Employer Set project. It's set by us and it's marked by us. So the core consists of the common core, the core pathway, and the Employer Set project. All 3 of those are externally set and externally marked, and the learner will get a single grade for that component. with all three of those assessments together. The first time the learner takes those assessments, they have to take all three to achieve a grade. So the Common Core, the Core Pathway, and the Employer Set Project, or ESP. Subsequent to that, in any resit, for example, they may be able to resit a single component, but all three of those components have to be sat the first time. That core component is given a grade between A star to E. The other part of the T level is the occupational specialism, which in land is around about 70% of the total TQ time, based on the occupational maps of that particular specialism. And this is where the practical work comes in for your learners. So the occupational specialism covers practical skills and knowledge in their specialist occupational area. That is assessed via a synoptic assignment, which will have tasks on both practical skills and knowledge. And that synoptic assignment for land is externally set, centre marked, and externally moderated in a very similar way to the synoptic assignments in our current level 3 technical qualifications. The T level also includes that industry placement, a minimum of 45 days, but could be more. If your learners have not yet achieved grade 4 at GCSE English and Maths, they will be required to be working towards those during the 2 years of their T level. That's part of the condition of funding, that they continue to study those. They're not required to pass those at grade 4 to pass the T level, but they are expected to be working towards them. And the package also includes the tutorial programme of employability, enrichment and pastoral hours. So that is the T level in a nutshell. I'm going to go on to talk about the structure of the land T level in a little bit more detail. As I've said, all learners, whichever part of the agriculture, environment and animal care T level they're doing, all learners will take the Common Core content and the same Common Core exam. They will then go on to the Core Pathway. Now, as I'm sure you're aware, the Animal Care and Management TQ of the T level, which includes Animal Care and Management and Equine Care and Management, has been deferred for first delivery until September 2024 to allow some redevelopment of the outline content. But as far as I'm aware, the animal and equine learners will still share a core pathway. Common content will be taken from the occupational specialisms of each and put into the core pathway assessment. At the moment, we don't have sight of the new outline content for equine or animal from the Institute. It is still in development with the Institute's route panels, etc. But as soon as we have sight of it and see what is in there, we will be reaching out for review and validation to yourselves and employers so that we can continue the development of that until 2024. At the moment, we don't have the outline content, so there isn't really much I can say about them at the moment other than they are being redeveloped. The core pathway structure for the Agriculture, Land Management and Production TQ, which is due for first delivery in September 2023, is outlined on this slide here. Now, 3 of the occupational specialisms, that is crop production, trees and woodland management, and ornamental horticulture and landscaping, share a core pathway. There is content that is common to all 3 that has been drawn into their core pathway assessment. So those 3 specialisms share a core pathway. The other specialisms have their own separate core pathway assessments. So livestock learners have a separate assessment, forestry learners have a separate one, and land-based engineering learners also have a separate one. The Habitat Management OS is still paused because the Institute is reviewing the apprenticeship standards that lie within that occupational specialism. And again, we don't have sight of the new outline content for that, and we have no information as to when that may change. So that remains paused. So in Agriculture, Land Management and Production, or ALMP for short, it's much easier to say, these are the occupational specialisms that will be available in 2023 for first delivery. At the moment, we are still in the validation stages, and I will talk about validation shortly. So the specifications are not yet ready for publication. They are still in draft form and they are still subject to change. The Trees and Woodlands specialism, as was previously announced in the previous webinars, has been split into two pathways: arboriculture and forestry, and centres can opt to offer one or the other or both pathways for their learners. There is some common content between the two pathways, and they diverge in later performance outcomes, and so they have separate occupational specialism assessments. In terms of those assessments, the components are as follows. The core programme in land comprises of the Common Core exam, the Core Pathway exam, and the Employer Set project. The Common Core and Core Pathway exams are equally weighted. They are 80 marks each, and they are both 2-hour exams. They're a mixture of short answer and longer answer questions. And the Employer Set project is approximately 90 marks and 12 hours in length. We've got an approximate mark on there because it will change year on year. So it may be shorter, it may be longer slightly. And the Employer Set project takes the form of a scenario that the learner is given and a number of tasks related to that scenario. It's all knowledge-based. It's to do with research, analysis, planning, problem solving, maths and English skills. So all components of the core are knowledge-based and taken in written controlled assessments. The occupational specialism is a synoptic assignment which will be set towards the end of year 2 of the programme once all the content has been taught, and that is an externally set again scenario and tasks marked by the centres internally and externally moderated. And in subsequent webinars I will be talking about teaching and learning, planning and assessment of these particular components. Now this is our delivery and development phases for our T-level. We are currently in the middle box of those three between September 22 and 23. We have embarked now on the 12-month countdown for ALMP. So I have started a series of introductory network events, and this is the first webinar in the 12-month countdown series for ALMP towards supporting centres to start delivering that qualification in 2023. Having said that, I am very aware that we don't currently have a finished specification, but we are giving centres as much information as we can, and the more you get involved, the better, really, and I'll talk about that shortly. And once we get the outline content for the animal and equine side of the TQ, we will start development, validation and review of that content as well. And in September 2023, centres that choose to start their delivery will be starting for ALMP. and we will then begin the 12-month countdown of support towards the first delivery of animal care and management, which will be in 2024. Now, in terms of the development of the ALMP, the Agricultural Land Management and Production side, our milestones have been updated and they have moved on a little bit. So these milestones have got later than were originally published. Our next milestone, in fact, is IM8, internal milestone 8, which is next week. And we then have a final approval milestone, which the date is yet to be formally agreed, but we're expecting it to be around about early December. And the accreditation date, because we don't currently have a final approval milestone date, the accreditation date is to be confirmed, but we expect that it will be in 2023, early 2023 sometime, but we don't have a date for that currently. As you can see from that slide, the time between each milestone is short. We get around about a month between each milestone. And within that time, a lot has to happen. At the milestone date, City and Guilds submit the validated materials to the Institute for sign-off and agreement. Any changes and any feedback from the Institute and Ofqual come back to us, usually a couple of weeks later. Our development team then implement any changes required, and then the material has to be revalidated before the next milestone. So as you can appreciate, these things get very tight, and we do often ask for help with validation at quite short notice, and that is just the nature of the milestone dates that we have. So if you are willing to join in with validation and you are asked to help with validation, please do be aware that we are often obliged to send things out at quite short notice. But those are our current timeline dates. So that is really the qualification in a nutshell at the moment. The next few slides are all about what I can do and what City and Guilds can do to support you as providers, and what you can do to help us with the development of the qualification. In terms of what I can do to help you, please do get in touch if you need any help, any advice, if you have any questions. You can email me directly at ann.rogers@cityandguilds.com. The email address was on that early slide, or you can get in touch with the Technicals Quality team very easily from the website. You can either use their email address, technicalsquality@cityandguilds.com, or you can use the chat function, which pops up from the bottom of every page that you go onto, or you can phone them. Using the chat or the phone is usually quicker, but someone will always get back to you. I am, as I said, organising a number of network events and webinars over the next 12 months, and I'll show you the 12-month calendar and where you can access that from the website. We publish a quarterly e-bulletin on T-levels. That includes the T-levels for all sectors. So you have to scroll down towards the bottom to see the land part, but we are there at the bottom, and that will contain any new information, any updates, and Eventbrite and GoToWebinar links for events and webinars. And you can also sign up for email alerts on the website. I do recommend that you do that. You can choose what you want to be told about from the form on the website, but do use email alerts. We do send them out when there is anything that we need to urgently let you know. So our T-levels landing page on the City and Guilds website is being updated all the time. The timelines are on there. our employer industry board. You can access the e-bulletin from there, and there's a page where you can see the technical advisors and the details for that. And the next slide actually shows you a couple of things that you can get from that web page. On the right-hand side here, we have the various tabs on the tier levels landing page. You can see there is information for employers, providers, and learners. There is a tab for resources and support, one for events and webinars, and an FAQ tab. And each of those takes you to pages of further information. On the resources and support page, if you click on that, it will take you to a series of drop-down accordions. And on the teaching, learning and planning accordion is where you will find this on the left-hand side, the 12-month planner for the events scheduled over the next 12 months as we approach September 2023. Now that 12-month planner is a live document, and it will be updated as and when events are planned or if any dates change. So do have a look at that on a regular basis. You can print it off and put it up on your wall as reminders, but do bear in mind that it does get updated regularly. So do keep an eye on it on the website as well. So any events that are planned for land-based, any regional networks, any Teams meetings or webinars will get put onto that 12-month planner. And as I say, that's available via the resources and support box on the teaching, learning and planning accordion. On the events and webinars page, you can find Eventbrite links to all our regional networks and GoToWebinar links for upcoming webinars as well. And I'll show you a few of those on a subsequent slide. The FAQs tab has questions around T levels, some general questions that apply to all T levels, but there is specific land Q&A on there as well. So do have a look if you have any questions. And if there's anything on there that doesn't answer the question you want, please do get in touch. Now, if you do want to get involved with validation, review of materials, if you want to have a look at the draft specifications and give us feedback to forward onto the Institute, the best way to do that is via the link here. And if you go to the T-levels page on the website and go to the providers page, the first thing that you see virtually on the providers page, if you scroll down, is the T-level development expression of interest form link. And if you click on that link, it takes you to an online form to fill out. You can choose which sector you're interested in, and if you choose land, you can also choose which part of the land sector you are interested in developing. And when you submit that form, it goes to our admin team, but it also comes directly to me, and I will add your name onto my contact database, and I will be getting in touch with you when we go through the validation process for the specialisms that you've expressed an interest in. So if you want to get involved, if you want to be able to see the draft specifications, if you want to have input and get your views listened to by the Institute, that's the best way to do it. If you've signed up already over the last 12 months, then your name will be there on my database. If you haven't signed up already and you're interested in getting involved, please do. You can also email me directly and say that you'd be interested. I'm always happy to get everyone involved. The more people that get involved, the more robust our qualification will be. So your views are really important, and as you can appreciate from the milestone dates slide, it is often asked for at quite short notice. So if you have signed up to help with validation and review, look out for email invitations from me, look out for email alerts on the website, Information may also be shared by Landex and NLBC, who have kindly helping us out with sharing and circulating materials for validation. But do bear in mind, it is often short notice. Even if, and I will be organising Teams meetings for validation discussions, but even if you can't attend those meetings in person, you will always be sent an online feedback form. So even if you're not there in the meeting, please do put your thoughts onto those feedback forms. Those are really important, and that's the format that needs to be submitted to the Institute. So these feedback forms are really, really, really important. So please do submit them if you get them. And as I said, if any of you are also employers, I know a lot of land-based tutors and staff also have their own businesses within the land-based sector. So if you are an employer, or if you know of an employer in your sector who may want to get involved, the employer validation sessions are very similar and equally important and equally frequent and at short notice. Any employer contacts are really useful, and please email Sally at sally.green@cityandguilds.com for more information on employer involvement. And we are looking for employer contacts from all sectors. One thing we are also looking for is centres to help us produce GSEMs, Guidance Standard Exemplar Materials. And this is part of our contractual obligation for the development of the T-level. And what these are is sample assessment answers, which will guide other centres towards what does a pass look like for this assessment, what does a distinction look like for this assessment. So what we are looking for is a member of staff who's experienced in that particular specialism to conduct that assessment on themselves and produce exemplar answers, photographic material or other evidence towards what you would expect a pass level student to produce and what you would expect a distinction level student to produce to those particular levels of competence. And they can be used then as a general guide and made available on the website for other delivery providers. Once the T-level is up and running and learners themselves start to take these assessments, we can also use those as evidence. Obviously, they're anonymised, but we need the first guidance materials to start us off. If you are interested in helping us to produce these, we wouldn't expect one centre to produce GSEMs for every specialism. So we are asking for centres to maybe help us with one specialism. Obviously, you can do more if you feel you're able, but it is a commitment, obviously, for time and resources. We can provide payment of £1,500 per GSEM. So, for example, if it was the floristry OS, for example, you would produce materials towards the floristry assessments at a pass and a distinction. If you are able to get involved, we really want to get this ball rolling as soon as we can. So if you are interested in helping, get in touch with me at my email address or my phone number, which is on my email signature, and I'll arrange a Teams meeting to start with myself and Richard Burns, our development manager, and Richard can talk you through the process and let you know what training is available, the kind of timelines we're looking for, and the sort of materials that we're expecting. So if you are interested, please do get in touch. We would love to hear from you. Another way that you can get involved is by applying for an associate vacancy position. Now this on the slide is a page from our website. It's not the easiest page to find, but the best way to find it is to put the words associate vacancies into the search bar at the top and click on the first result. And this is the page that comes up. And as you can see, there are vacancies that you can search for EPAs, T-level roles, which includes TQAs at the moment, to go out towards the centre approval process. We're looking for moderators for the technical qualifications, EQAs, exam writers and auditors, etc. And these are paid positions, and you get trained to undertake them. So if you're interested in getting involved in any of those, please do look at our associate vacancies page. There are land vacancies on there at the moment. I had a look at the T-level ones just yesterday, and there are some T-level TQA roles available at the moment. As part of the 12-month countdown programme, as I said, I'm organising a number of network events for the T-level. And these are the next few that have been arranged. Our next network event is at Broadstairs College on the 31st of October. That's in Kent. And that particular session includes a guest speaker as well, which should be really interesting. But we have events around the country, and please do register for them. The Eventbrite links are there on the slide, but they're also available on the events and webinars page on the website. Please do register. We need as many people there as possible, because the more interactive discussion we get, the better. And it's I think it really helps centres to understand the ins and outs of the T-level, to come to these events if you can. And there will be others arranged throughout the year on various aspects of T-level teaching and learning, curriculum planning, sharing good practice, etc. So look out for those on our website and on our quarterly bulletin. The next webinars that I'm going to present are to do with familiarisation on the structure of the T-level and the components of the T-level. And that is in 3 parts, delivered over November, December and January. In part 1 is largely focused on industry placements, learner profiles, and setting up for the T-level. Part 2 focuses on the core components of the T-level, so the core exams, the core pathway and the ESP. And part 3 is focused on the occupational specialisms. So do look out for those. I would recommend, if you can, to register for all 3 of those, because they follow on one from the other. And again, if you are unable to attend, the recordings will be available, as will the slides to download from the website. So thank you very much. That's what I have to say today. I'm just going to have a look to see if there are any questions. Just give me 1 second. Okay. So Tanya, the core is graded A star to E, and the occupational specialism is pass merit distinction. Yes, that is correct, Tanya. And the learner will get a single grade for their T-level at the end of that. There is a grid that you can use to work out what the final grade will be, based on their core grade and their occupational specialism grade. So you occupational specialism along the top, core grade down the side, and there's a table in the middle that tells you which grade the learner comes out with at the end. So the grade that they will achieve at the end of their 2 years at the T-level will be pass merit distinction or distinction star. And in order to gain that qualification, the learner will have to pass every component. So the core exam, the core pathway exam, the ESP and their occupational specialism, and they need to have completed the minimum number of hours for their industry placement. I hope that answers that question for you, Tanya. There are no other questions in the question box. I will hang on for a few minutes to see if any other questions come up, but that is all I have for you for today. So thank you very much for your time, and I will hope to see you either in a network meeting or in my next webinar in a few weeks' time. So thank you all very much for your time. and goodbye.
Hi Anne, it's Sarah. Don't know if you can hear me. You have a couple of other questions there because I'm not sure if you can see them.
Do I? Ah, okay.
Tanya, I think the question about the core and the occupational grades was why are they different? So why is it A to E for one and pass merit distinction for the other? And then there's a query about UCAS points.
Ah, well, thank you, Sarah. I can't actually see those other questions. So why those grades are different, I don't know. That's the way the T-level is comprised from the Institute. It's common across all the T-levels, not just the land-based one. So that's just the structure of T-levels in general. Oh, hang on, I think I can see these questions now. Thank you, Tanya. And what will the UCAS points look like in comparison with A-levels? They are equivalent to 3 A-levels, and the UCAS points are equivalent to 3 A-levels. And again, there is a grid that you can work out the level of UCAS points for each grade of the T-level. I will talk about that in a subsequent webinar. Sorry about that. I didn't see those questions come up until after I'd stopped. Hopefully you've heard the answers to those, Tanya. If that's everything, then I think we can finish. Thank you all very much for your attendance. I appreciate it. You're welcome. I think that's everyone gone.